I just remember I picked up my box cutter for my recycling and I said, I am either going to shove this in my thigh or I'm going to get inebriated. And it wasn't even, I'm going to get drunk. It was like, I want to obliterate all emotion. I cannot handle how lonely I am. You know, there were some things that happened with family members that were very upsetting to me that I couldn't really do very much about and hadn't been resolved. And I'm like, I'm a wreck.
And here we are with my friend Rebecca. I was saying before we started that we don't always have to go all the way back to like child, unless there's something really specific that you want to talk about. But like, let's just talk sobriety. Why are you
Yeah.
sober? What happened?
I am sober because as I moved through my life, from my why is childhood illness that left me infertile by age 8. I had my ovaries removed because of very large tumors that they couldn't save the organs. And I moved through adolescence with a huge chip on my shoulder. You know, I had to go on hormone replacement therapy by the time I had to wait. So I was like 16 and waiting to go through puberty. It just messed with my head. It made me feel really insecure and really unworthy and like I was like nobody else. And it's really funny because this is a little bit of callback to your podcast that I listened to that I started listening to when your son was 7. What really resonated for me was when I was 10, 11, 12, and I knew I couldn't go through a normal puberty. I just wanted to be a girl named Rebecca. I wanted to be a woman named Rebecca who I saw myself in my head and how I identified. And I knew it was going to be a struggle. And it was so heartbreaking. And I was allowed to take hormones and become the person I knew I was. And when you started talking about your child, it just resonated so hard with me that we all should be allowed to have the same journey I had, that we're completely allowed to be who we are.
Because
And
what you went through was
yeah,
basically gender affirming care.
it was 100% because I mean, I was born genetically female. I had my ovaries removed. I never made estrogen. I was too young. Um, so my pituitary gland took me only so far. And I ended up being like a 12-year-old who was physically so behind everybody else that I just walked through every day going, I'm different, I'm wrong, I'm not in my body the way I want to be. And it was so heartbreaking. And you know, my mom was such a saint through all the endocrinologist visits and all the exams and really kept me sane, but it wasn't enough because I didn't feel right. And by the time I got through to go through puberty, like everybody had already lost their virginity. You know, I was so be behind the curve. And around the time that I got to start on estrogen was the time I first smoked pot. And both those things in conjunction, I've been writing about it, was like a moment of, okay, I don't have to feel so bad. I felt so bad for so long. And I'd like to go back to my younger self and say it all worked out okay. You didn't have to spend all those years feeling so bad. But it was a lot. It was, you know, how can I date? I can't ever have children. How could I get married? I can't ever have children. And it just sat on me, you know, it sat on my heart. And I became a heavy duty smoker. And that's how I moved through my adolescence, my 20s. And I was very, very innocent looking. Nobody knew that I was like a daily smoker. No, nobody had any clue. And I luckily had very aggressively charismatic but rebellious brothers on either side of me. So I could just fly under the radar and just quietly do what I needed to do to feel better about myself. Because I never felt like in here I felt myself, here I didn't. And it's why I've always been so, I guess, such an ally of any child who's going through that, no matter what gender they were born, because I get it. I know how it felt.
So when you were 16, you said, and you started doing hormones,
Yeah.
do you, it wasn't something, I mean,
I
obviously I
took,
do know how this works, but so
yeah,
it's a continuous thing. Like you always
I'm
have to
still on
keep
it.
that
I
up.
can
Yeah.
never go off it. I have to stay on it for, cardiac disease is the number one killer of women. Our bones get thin. It's made me a bit of a health nut because um, I know the things that I'm in danger of happening to my body, like my heart, my bones. Um, you have to stay on them for your sexual health. You don't want to wither up and die, um, sexually or physically. So I'll be on them for the rest of my life. And I don't
Right.
mind at all. I kind of feel like I'm cheating menopause because I never went through it and I never will. It happened when I was 8. It's called surgical menopause. So by the time I was in my 20s, I was, a daily pot smoker. I was starting to drink more because marijuana was starting to make me like paranoid. And I was about 27. I'm like, well, this doesn't work as well as it did. And then I kind of discovered like tequila and vodka, and I would do that more. And the whole time I would think to myself, why am I so profoundly unhappy all the time? I'm so unhappy all the time. I never feel well. I'm never happy. I feel like I have a chip on my shoulder all the time. And one of the things that started happening around 30, I started getting these like massive panic attacks. And like, I live in San Francisco and I nannied on the other side of the bridge. I live in Marin. I nannied in San Francisco. I couldn't drive over the bridge without total panic attack sweating. And so I started going to therapy, and the therapist said, what bothers you? And I said, no, nothing. I had buried everything so far down. I had disassociated so much from feeling so heartsick about not being able to have kids. And it took a couple of sessions to get to the infertility. And I said, oh, yeah, that does bother me. And we worked really hard. And after I got sober, I did EMDR. I did all sorts of therapies. And it's now 13 years, 13 and a half years into sobriety that I realized the other day, I'm really happy. I'm like, I wake up happy every day. I wake up happy, I move through my day happy, and I go to bed happy. And I know why.
When you
Because,
were in therapy,
yeah,
covering the infertility stuff, did she ever ask you about your drinking or drug
no,
use?
it literally never came up. The
I
person who
never
asked
talked to
me
I went
never
to
came
lots of
up.
therapy and did not bother saying that I drink too much ever.
I
Did not
didn't know
think I
that I
did.
did.
Yeah.
I remember once doing like I love to bike, and I remember once, I'm in my little town of Mill Valley. I'm gonna go take a mountain bike ride. Did a great big fat bong hit, walked my bike downstairs, and went, whoa, I don't know if I can handle trees right now. And as I'm biking to the mountain, to the path, I go, why do you drink so much? Like every once in a while, it would like creep in, like, dude, why do you do that? What are you doing? And it just did not occur to me that it was such a problem until it was a problem. And it was when I was 45, and my darling friend Dolores had told me she had invited me to hear her speak at AA. She invited all of us to go hear her speak. And right before it was time to do that, I went home to throw my parents a 50th anniversary party. And I brought home, I like made sure I went to the liquor store first, and I was drinking only Ciroc vodka then because, it was fancy. And I would say, it's made out of grapes. I'm allergic to weed. I can't do regular vodka. I have to do it like it's like grapes. It's like a white wine. It's very fancy. It's like $35 a bottle. I'm not an alcoholic. So I would get a bottle like this big and there'd be like this much left, the next morning. And my mom and I were talking. We were driving in the car, and she was really funny. I told her I was doing this. She goes, make sure to mention your sainted mother. So my mom and I are talking in the car, and she goes, honey, I don't mean to be a bother, but I saw how much vodka you went through last night, and I really feel you're drinking too much for your height.
For
And
your height.
I said, Mom, I'm going to be really honest with you. That's every night of the weekend. but I couldn't tell her weekend starts on Thursday, ends on Tuesday. And I said, that's just how I drink. And I said, but here's the thing. My friend is speaking at AA next week. She asked me to go, and I kind of feel like I'm going to stop when I hear her speak. I've never been to a meeting before. And I went to this meeting, and she got up and she said something that really stuck with me, that she got to be her kid's sober mom. Now, I didn't have children, but I nannied the family I'm with now, I've been with for 24 years.
Wow.
I raised so many kids. Most of them I'm still best friends with right now. Um, a bunch of them I had to go see before I left. They're in their 30s now. And they're like my sisters. Um, I wanted to be their sober person. I wanted to be the person who was available 24/7, 365, and I wasn't even available for myself. And then I went to the meeting. I think it was September 23rd, and I never drank again. September 24th was my first day. And it was just seeing like that whole thing, the attraction. If you see what I have and you want it, you can get that. And it really meant a lot to me. And I went to Dolores, I said, take me to meetings. And for like a month, she took me to every single meeting. And it was really fragile and scary in the beginning. It felt like being a sea anemone, and you could feel everything on your skin. And I like broke up with the person I was dating because we drank a lot together. I had to get sober on my own, and it was the best thing I ever did. And slowly, everything got better. And like 6 months in, I started going to yoga. I used to think I want to be the type of person who goes to yoga on Saturday, who's not hung over on Saturday. And I became that person. And the one thing I didn't do, and I talk to all my friends who want to get into recovery, that it's not just quitting drinking. The one thing I didn't do is I slowly let go of meetings over the first 10 years of my sobriety, slowly let go of meetings. I used to brag like, well, I go to therapy because I need to be the only one in the meeting, or I go to yoga because it's more spiritual. But the truth of it is,
It's kind of funny.
yeah, it's funny, but here's the
Wrong-headed
truth.
or not, it's kind of funny to be like, I go to therapy because I need to be the only one in the meeting. I
But
need to
this
share
is,
the whole time.
I needed to just be about me, but this is the truth.
Yeah.
And this is why I stopped going to meetings. It was about ego. It wasn't about therapy. It wasn't about not wanting all the attention on myself. It was about those young men who were like 22, 23, who'd come from court ordered rehab, and they looked like they just had their ass kicked by life. And I would look at them and I would go, well, that's not me. I'm not that. And I've never been that. I'm different. And that is why I almost went out at 10 years sober, because I could not admit to myself, I am that. I am exactly that. We are all addicts. We are all the same. We are all alcoholics. There is no level of, well, I only drink expensive vodka, or I only, it's not about judging other alcoholics. And it was about humbling myself and having that moment of, we're all the same. We're all exactly the same. And I need to check myself because I'm walking into these meetings with ego.
But let's
And
be
it took
real
me a
here
long
for a
time to
second.
it took me a long time to recognize that.
I was going to say that piece, it took a long time. That was over 10 years. It's not
Mhm.
like you didn't go to meetings for a month and then you had this epiphany.
No.
I think for a lot of people, there is something powerful though about seeing people that are like yourself. Now, it can
Yeah.
also be a trap because you can start going to like only all women's meetings with people that
Yeah.
really have their shit together, and you
No.
can start fooling yourself into like,
Yeah.
oh, those are the people I'm really like that. And what I like to do is humble myself in the way of going to a meeting that isn't of all
Yeah.
like-minded people, because I can tend to lull myself into a false sense of like I wasn't that bad. And
Mhm.
it really helps me to do this podcast and talk to all different kinds of people and remember like all the shitty things I wasn't so together.
I was not together at all. I didn't finish college. I had 7 credits
I didn't
left.
start college.
I
I'm
had
gonna one
seven
up
credits left.
every shitty thing you say about yourself. I'm gonna try to one. I'm
Okay.
just kidding. Go
Oh,
ahead.
this will be fun. I had 7 credits left, and my parents said, you have to go to summer school. And I went to Grateful Dead concerts and got really, really stoned all summer long, and then moved to California. And then at 55, my boss said, I know you want to finish. Do it now. And I got my BA last August. It took
Wow.
33 years. And everyone's like, what'd you do it for? And I'm like, I put a period at the end of the sentence. And like, I didn't get a DUI, but I definitely drove inebriated a lot. I didn't get fired, but I definitely slept through my alarm and came to work boku hungover a lot. you know, I didn't um I didn't get divorced or marry the wrong person, but I cheated on like every single boyfriend I ever had because I would get drunk and we'd be out somewhere together and they'd walk up and be like, why are you kissing that guy? And I'd be like, oh my God, Teddy's so great. This is my boyfriend. So I did a lot of, I like to tell my friends, like, you could suggest anything like super fucked up. Like, should we do this? I'd be like, I'll drive. Let's do it right now. And I have admitted I'm gonna say 99 or maybe 100% of it to like my mom. And I was like, don't judge me, but this is all the stuff I did. And she just kind of nods. She goes, glad you don't drink anymore. So like there weren't a lot of consequences, but the consequences were coming. The severe illness was coming. Like the pictures I have of me when I drank, like my face is this big, my boobs are this big, and my body is this big, It's like it was all coming. I was going to lose jobs. I was going to eventually get a DUI because I always drove drunk. It wasn't that far from my house to the nightclub downtown. I could make it back there. It's totally fine.
Right.
Go the back roads. Yeah.
So
So
these 10 years are going
consequences were going to
by.
come.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're at this point where you really don't go to meetings anymore. You're like, I'm not like these people. I'm not that bad. And then what made you what was
Well,
your
what happened was the pandemic hit in 2020 and I had really fallen off already. So I hit 8 years sober in September of 2020. And there had been a period of about 3 to 4 years where I would go to get my chip at the Thursday night meeting in Mill Valley. And I'd be like, can I have last year's too? Like I went once a year. And I joked with people. I went in like I was in a pageant, like, thank you so much. Yes, I'm back. I'm back for my chip. I was like, it was like I was walking in a prom dress going, thank you all for being here. I'm here to pick up my chip. And I had just really fallen off. I didn't need meetings. I wasn't like them. I didn't need them. And then a
but you did
whole
want to
bunch
kind of
of
show them how it's done. You wanted to give people a little taste of
I was the
inspiration.
sober friend. Everybody was like, Rebecca's sober. Oh my God, she does yoga all the time. I was that annoying. Here's another handstand picture on Instagram. And I just biked this and I just biked that. And I have my shit together and I'm sober. Zero recovery. I had never gotten past step 4. I had worked with a sponsor. And I would say recovery and sponsorship in AA is like a vampire. You have to invite them in. And if you don't invite them in, they're not going to follow you. It's up to you to make it. So when I stopped calling my sponsor, she's like, well, you're not ready. You call me when you're ready. So I had done zero recovery work. And, I was sitting in this room, in this cabinet Maine, in this desk, really depressed in July of 2023. And I just remember I picked up my box cutter for my recycling. And I said, I am either going to shove this in my thigh or I'm going to get inebriated. And it wasn't even, I'm going to get drunk. It was like, I want to obliterate all emotion. I cannot handle how lonely I am. There were some things that happened with family members that were very upsetting to me that I couldn't really do very much about and hadn't been resolved. And I'm like, I'm a wreck. So what I did was I picked up my phone. I called my childhood friend, Pete, who we had dated in our 20s, and he was my sober friend. And I said, Pete, I want a drink. And he said, babe, when was your last meeting? And I said, last September when I got my 10-year chip. And he's like, you have to go to a meeting. You have to go right now. And I found a meeting in Bar Harbor. I took the bus to Bar Harbor. I couldn't find the door for the meeting. I was in the wrong door. And Pete said, come home, hop on a Zoom meeting with me. He talked to me all the way home. I hopped on a Zoom meeting and he sat on Zoom with me. And he's like, this is what you have to do. You're not doing recovery. And then I figured out where to go for these meetings, where to go in Southwest Harbor, where to go in Bar Harbor. And I became like a meeting holic. It was like God got me right again. And I met a wonderful man who I ended up dating for 3 years, who talked to me about recovery and women's meeting. And I got a sponsor and I finally did 12 step. And it turned my whole life around. Like cleaning up your side of the street and forgiving other people for their side of the street. I had never really considered that before. It changed how I dealt with every single person in every aspect of my life. And it was amazing. And when the guy I was dating gave me my 11-year chip in September, because they do a big ceremony and you give each other your chips, and he says a few words. He said, Rebecca, the reason you're finishing 12 step is because someday there's going to be a young girl who needs your help, and you're going to turn around and help back. And I didn't even know it was a circular program. I was like, really? That's what we do? So it was all getting into real recovery was amazing. And I like to tell people who are hesitant to go to meetings that wherever you go, and I travel with my job, we go to Hawaii in the winter, we come here in the summer. No matter where I go, I have a community. In Oahu, it's under a banyan tree in the park. I know all those people by heart. They know me. When I ride up on my bike, they're like, you're back. And I love them all dearly. I had a sponsor in Hawaii this winter. We wanted to do some specific step work. Um, I have a special person I work with here in Bar Harbor, and I started the first women's meeting on MDI here. It's been amazing. And the thing about 12 step is when the hard stuff happens, it gets you through. And 3 weeks ago, I got a text that Pete died, the one who got me back into recovery. Pete lost his battle with addiction. And even though a bunch of our friends have said how, like specifically how, I'm like, doesn't matter. He lost his battle with addiction. That's all we need to know. And I wrote on Facebook, I owe him a debt because he saved me. And it lit a fire under me. Like I went to AA the first night I found out, and all I could think was, I will do my damnedest to never go out like that. That won't be me. And I'm going to take his light and his energy, and I'm going to tell everyone I know that I am here to help them and I am here to be available to them. And I did that in all my meetings. And I've had two of my women friends come up to me and say, I like what you got going on. Can we work together? And we're doing it long distance this summer. We're doing two different workbooks. One, we're doing the Woman's Way workbook, and the other one, we're doing the OA workbook because I've been working on that too. So even when all the shit goes sideways, AA and recovery is what saves me
So for
every
anybody
single
that
time.
doesn't know, OA is Overeaters Anonymous, which is a
Overeaters Anonymous.
great because we all have a lot of it. Usually people who have addiction have many
Oh,
different ways to check out.
I had, I was telling my friends, I'm like, I planned eating like a sexual escapade. I planned when I was gonna have a snack, like literally I'd be finishing up work and I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go back to my room and I'm gonna get the vegan cheese that I got because it's like it's organic and it's vegan. I'm gonna melt it. I'm gonna eat it with a spoon. Ah, and I would literally be like, ah. And then I had to like stop and be like, you're having a lot of feelings and you're eating them all. You're doing the exact same thing you did with alcohol. And like full disclosure, because I talked to you about this, I was just going to do a GLP. I was going to do a GLP-1. And I have such bad anxiety. Like I joke that once I got my anti-anxiety medicine, like what did I take? I took Xanax. and I dropped it on the floor and it opened and it spilled on the floor. And I looked at it, I was like, well, I can never take that because it was on the floor. Like, I think I gave it to my brother. I was like, oh, it's on the floor. You can't take it when it's on the floor. So I actually I got my GLP, I got the vial, and I picked it out of the package, and it was sticky. I was like, I can't take it. It's sticky. And I was like, all right, you're too scared to take it. Fine, you have to find another way. And I reached out to my friend. I said, all right, I want to start over step one, 12 step with food. And I was able to so far lose 13 pounds.
Wow.
I had to pray a lot. Like I literally had to walk in my room and from work and drop to my knees and be like, please don't let me eat all my feelings right now because I'm lonely and I'm a little sad and everyone I love is like 3,000 miles away and the guy I'm dating is making me a little nuts and I'm feeling a lot of feelings. Thank you. Higher power, thank you. And I had to really go back and do the entire 12 step program that I did for alcohol for food. And I felt like it shot me even further forward in recovery. And since I've shared about it at meetings, now one of my friends in the women's meetings, like, will you walk through the workbook with me? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I absolutely will, because I'm still figuring it out. It's not easy. I'm hungry 24/7. And if I'm stressed, I'm like when there's nap for that, I'm like there's a hunger for that. If I'm stressed, I'm hungry. If I'm sad, I'm hungry. If I'm sleepy, I'm hungry. And I to take it back,
Nothing wrong with the GLP-1, just
I
saying.
know I'm just too scared to take it because I'm
Yeah.
scared I'm gonna throw up.
I'm just saying one of the side
I wish
effects.
I could.
I
I
I
wish I
don't I don't
could.
want anybody to feel any kind of shade towards GLP-1
Oh no,
medications
I think it's
because
very useful.
it's not a shortcut. Actually can be very helpful to people that have addiction. They're finding
I
out
know.
it really
I
sort
know.
of does something where you just don't have quite that same, speaking from experience, you
Absolutely.
don't get the same hit from because you don't really crave substances the
Like
same
you're
way.
eating and you're going, you're the best love I ever had in my whole
Exactly. You're not
life.
like, ah, I
Oh,
love it.
is.
These
Oh,
Oreos, I've never had an
Blackberries. It's orgasmic. Yeah, because eating can be a very orgasmic experience. It's
satisfying.
yeah, very satisfying in a way that I'm trying to replace with exercise. But I'm still not opposed to it. I'm just terrified.
Yeah,
And
valid. Listen, I'm just saying
but
for all my
I
friends
have the
out there.
world's stupidest anxiety about so many things. Like I literally have to talk to myself all day and go, maybe don't worry about me. I'm not allowed to think more than what did I tell my friend Christina? Don't think more than 1 hour ahead.
I was thinking about Xanax a
Yes.
lot. And because and I don't have the answer to this. This is not necessarily like a self-help podcast. Like let's work it out
Yeah.
together. But I
Yeah.
was thinking about the fact that I have so much anxiety and I know for a fact that it's not the same anxiety from when I was young. I
Yeah.
really think it's kind of hormonally related. I think the drop
Yeah.
in hormones makes me feel sometimes edgy. And then my brain, because I'm a shortcutter, I want the like, how can I fix this without having to really like sit in it or figure it out? Because sometimes I'm like, there's no reason that I'm having a freak out on the freeway. All of a sudden, just like, oh my God, there's cars and they're very big and they're very fast and like they could crash. And then I will have the thought, how come they're not just all crashing all the time? Like, how come yes, car accidents happen and they happen every day, but how come it's not just like, how come every car isn't crashing? Are we
Right.
all just dependent on the next person being a good driver?
Yeah,
And
like that guy could mess it all up for me. That guy right there. Yeah.
right. Somebody could
Yeah.
swerve in my lane at any point. Okay. So sometimes I feel like I'm always on high alert. And then I remember that back before I had this pesky, acknowledgement that I'm an addict, I could take a Xanax and go like, feel like I'm in a warm bath. All is right in the world. And then I was getting really upset that I don't get to have that feeling. but then I had to do the thing that we alcoholics do, which is the think through the whatever it is. And I was like, okay. I even took notes on my feelings about this. I was like, okay, yes, it's not fair that other people don't have to deal with anxiety because not all anxiety is based on is based on some shit we're not working out that could be solved in 12 step. It's just not. It's some of it is
Nope.
just in my body. Okay. But then I was like, okay, but here's the thing. Yes, some people could take a nice little blue pill and go, oh, I feel better. And I feel like I could handle life and I could
Mhm.
still drive. I'm not really mind altered. I don't feel high from it. I just feel even. Some people
Yeah.
get to do that and that's fine for
Yeah.
them. Now, me, I would take a Xanax, and I know this about myself so well. So, but yet I could still be talked out of it if somebody was to be like, "You can totally handle it." I might go like, "Could I though?" But this is what I know about myself from years ago. If I had a Xanax, I would
Yeah.
be like, "Oh my gosh, this works. This is so nice. Thank you, God, for having this nice option of a
Yes.
medication through science that I can feel a little better." But then, like the next day, I'd be like, gosh, it's so nice to just feel even keeled and not
Wonder
have to
if
worry
that
about,
would still work today.
yeah.
Worked
And
so
then,
well yesterday.
mhm. And then it
That's
would,
sad.
and then I would start Googling, hey, how long could you be on Xanax? Like, could I just be on it the rest of my life? Could I be on a low dose of Xanax and just like that's how I'll always feel? And
A daily thing.
AI or Gemini, if it's Google, might be like, you know what? Totally. You could have just a
Uh-huh.
small, you could have like 0.25 milligrams of Xanax every single day for the rest of your life and it's fine. But I would be like, that's great, but 2.25 doesn't actually really work for me.
I love my people in my close close group who say things like this. Well, I have to take 5 milligrams because I just have a really high tolerance. And I'm like, because you're addicted to it. It's that's addiction. And they're like, just have a really high tolerance. I'm like, right, because it gets you high. I just have a like a little more high tolerance. I'm like, right, addiction. Yeah.
So then you have to acknowledge I have to go, well, the thing is that if 0.25 even just took the edge off, that's not quite what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is really
I
taking
can
no
emerge
edge. I want no
more.
edge. I want it sanded down to a just a smooth, and that's just not achievable through just medication. Like that's just, and so then I would have to be taking a half a milligram at least, right? Then I'd be
Yeah.
like twice a day or whatever it is. At some point, I'd be addicted again, and
It
then I'd have
ramps
to
up. It
stop.
ramps up. And I could do that literally with anything. I can
Well,
literally do that with
same.
anything. Yeah.
And so
That
the
cheese
people
was
that are
so good. I must walk to the store and get more right now so I could have it tonight and plan my rendezvous because that was really good yesterday. I should get 3, so I have one for tonight, tomorrow night, and the next night. Like, I can literally buy food the way I squirreled away alcohol, the way I squirreled away pot. It's like, better make sure I have it, can't run out, cupboard's gotta be full. It's very interesting.
so let me ask you this though.
Yeah.
So when you quit drinking, I see this conversation. This is a very trendy conversation. A lot of people think that they don't drink anymore, but they still smoke pot or do weed or
It
whatever, however we could say.
to me,
When you
it was
quit, you've
all or
already
nothing.
okay.
All or nothing.
Same.
All
I
or
mean,
nothing.
obviously, same for me. But what would you say to people? Like, have you ever thought, well, but you kind of already did have a weed problem. So in your mind, you were probably like, I'm quitting getting
I
high in
quit
general.
I quit smoking pot first, cigarettes second, alcohol and all other drugs third because, you know, I I went to a lot of concerts. I had some flamboyant partners. There was some dabbling in other things, nothing like that could kill you, but, could be really fun for an evening. And I'm a nothing, all nothing. And I have a lot of friends, like I live in Northern California. I have a lot of friends who smoke a lot of pot, a lot of friends who like to take mushrooms, take a little acid, and they go, "Oh, you're clean and sober." And I'm like, "I am." And Here's the other thing though, the flip side of that is I don't judge anybody who quits drinking and has to smoke weed or whatever they need to do for their recovery because that's what worked for them. I know it won't work for me. And I know that unless I am having a full on panic attack, I will not take any sort of medication to deal with it. If I'm waking up in the middle of the night with anxiety, I will first get out of bed and try to trick myself out of it by like folding laundry. If that doesn't work, I do like a downward dog and I do square breathing. If that doesn't work, I get back into bed and I do. The only thing I won't do is eat. I used to have a snack. I won't do that anymore. Then I'll get back into bed and do other, more square breathing. And if that doesn't work, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this on the podcast, but I do have a vibrator in my drawer.
Why would you not be allowed to say that?
Oh, my mom knows. And I told my mom, I was like, literally, boom, you're not thinking about anxiety anymore. I go just about 5 minutes and you go right back to sleep.
That's a good
So
tool. I can't,
it's a
literally and figuratively.
literally, it's a good tool. And my gynecologist thinks it's hilarious. I'm like, I have replaced any sort of benzo with the rabbit. She's like, really? I'm like, yeah, because all you're doing is breathing and you're not paying attention to what was going on in your head. And a lot of times I'm just flying solo somewhere else. And I find that these things work. Breathing works, yoga works. And the biggest thing is to wake up the next morning and realize that you got through it works. I just facing the shit head on works. And it's hard. I'm not going to say it's easy. It's really, really hard. And especially like the food stuff, because when I became infertile as a kid, one of my earliest memories of being miserable and infertile and not feeling right in my body is coming home from seventh grade, being home before my mom got off of work, and just standing in front of the fridge and just reaching and eating, and like mindlessly reaching and eating like mayonnaise on bread, mustard, cheese, blah, blah, until I felt full and not bad anymore. And so eating started way before drinking started. Pot smoking and drinking started when I was an older teenager, but it's just all the things we do to not feel what hurts. And I'm determined to feel what hurts at this point in my life and just kind of work through it and just be a little brave.
I think that's just a really beautiful message. And I think that if we could all just have a little bit of grace for ourselves and for the fact that, for a lot of us, especially the food stuff, especially with
Yeah.
women,
Ugh.
the food stuff starts really early. It's a way to self-soothe. I'm right there
Mhm.
with you. I have a visceral memory of wanting thirds on my mom's mac and cheese for dinner and feeling this sense of shame of like, oh, I'm going back for thirds, and
Yes.
and a little bit of that leaves some for the rest of us. And just
Yeah.
knowing somewhere in myself that, oh, I was being kind of a pig, or I can't
Yeah.
quite stop eating.
Yeah.
There's never enough from, you know what I mean? And then that feeling, it's this profound, sad feeling of knowing when my mom bought ice cream that I was going to be fighting with myself the whole time of like wanting more of it and sneaking and getting more ice cream. And then knowing the repercussions would be that somebody would say, who ate all the ice cream? And there's so
Yes.
much shame involved in
Yeah.
overeating,
There's so much. It's crazy. And like the funniest thing about my childhood and like not growing, we joke that we had to wait for me to reach this incredible height of 5'1". I'm the tiniest person in the family. I never got bigger than my parents. And I know it's because, we had to do a medically induced puberty. But like my brothers ate like a lot. I didn't even eat as much as them, but they were so skinny. They were like huge metabolism, so skinny. I had a slow metabolism. I wasn't growing. I was the chubby one. And I always felt bad about it. And it's so funny because I say to my friends when we discuss recovery, I always encourage them, Go back and thank your younger self for trying to deal with it. Go back and say, thank you. I understand what you were trying to do. I've got it from here, but thank you. Thank you for trying. I appreciate you. And I say that to my younger self all the time. Like, I understand you were just trying to cope with the skills you had. And we grew up. We figured it out eventually. And I hope someday I'm 80 looking back at the me I am now going, thanks. Thanks for trying. You know, I I think we kick ourselves too much and feel too much shame at our younger selves who didn't understand how to deal with everything we were holding. And we all hold a lot.
And even our
And
older selves, I could say the
mhm,
same thing for, this the stress and anxiety I had after having a baby. I didn't have the tools. All I knew was having a drink took the edge off. I
yes.
didn't quite know. I didn't know what to expect. And then I have this baby. I'm filled with all of this anxiety and grief in some ways, and love and protectiveness and insecurity and all of these feelings. And I wanted to make those feelings go away. I wanted to
Yeah.
get a hold on it.
Yes.
I wanted to feel a little bit more in control. And so I did the best I could with the tools I
Yeah.
had. And
Yep.
it didn't, it's not a good thing for me because I do have an addictive personality, but like many who came before us, I could just give grace to the, 37-year-old that
Yeah.
also was scared and didn't have tools and didn't have support, and, and go, okay, I did the best I could. And then I got sober. Then I had to
Yeah.
figure, then I learned another way.
Yeah. I always think, honestly, Stephanie, if I hadn't become infertile, I would have been a terrible parent. I really do. I feel like there's a sliding doors version of me who's like on top of the house with a rifle going, who's miserable and like her children resent her because I'm moody and they're like, God, you're awful. But it's funny because I'm like the ultimate nanny, auntie. Oh my gosh, one of my nanny kids is calling me Nana now to her child. She's like, "You're like my mom, so you're his grandmother. I'm gonna call you Nana." And
Oh,
I'm like, "Okay." And like my ex, when I met all his grandchildren, they called me super auntie. It's just like we're on second generations of some of these kids, and their parents tell me, "God, if you weren't around, how would we have done this?" So I really feel like role of auntie instead of mommy this life around has just been absolutely fine. I had
so it
other shit to
all,
work through.
yay, so it all came full circle.
It all came full
It
circle,
all
yeah.
worked out. I'm so happy that you came on today. What a treat.
Do you wanna say what my response was when you texted me? What my text back response was when
Yeah.
you went to that? I said, "Oh my fucking god, you bet your fucking ass I wanna do this." I was, like, on my mountain bike in the Southwest Food Mart putting, like, my food in my little saddlebags. I'm like, "I just gotta go home and take a shower and look presentable because 'cause it's been a day."
Well, you look amazing and you are so funny, and what a great message. I want to listen. I'm going to go back and listen to this episode again. I feel like I almost cried. It's a good one.
I'm rewriting the short story I read to you, and, I'm gonna have another edit soon. I There's one line that I'm not sure if I could put in, but it's pretty dirty, with her lawyer going, "Exhibit A, have you seen a picture of his dick?"
So where
Love
do
your
you
class.
want
Everybody
some,
take Stephanie's writing class.
thank you. Thanks for the shout out.
Yeah.
Do you need some Instagram followers? Where can people find you if they want to reach out to you and
I'm
tell you how
Rebecca
fabulous you are?
Nelson Lubin on Instagram, Rebecca Nelson Lubin on Facebook, Rebecca Nelson Lubin on, what's
TikTok?
the other TikTok. Yeah, I make a lot of videos of, "Here's where I biked today, and this is a picture of a tree." "Oh,
Well,
here's a
good.
tree in the foliage." "Here, I just biked North Shore Oahu. Here's some waves." And then I do them to classic rock songs, and, there people look at them, and I'm like, "Oh, wow, people look at them."
Well, I will
And,
link
oh,
to
I
it.
have a blog where I put writing up, and it's
Oh,
Rebecca Nelson Lubin at WordPress.com.
oh
But
my gosh.
I gotta update. Yeah, I working on, a memoir of becoming infertile, becoming an alcoholic, becoming sober, and a different story too. I got to take a year of writing at San Francisco State, finishing my BA, and I got like all re-inspired. And my BA is in creative writing.
Oh,
So
that's fantastic. All
yeah.
right. Well, thank you, Rebecca Nelson Lubin, so much. And I will
Thank
see
you, Stephanie.
everybody next week. Bye.
Listen to you Tuesday. Bye.
Life is good, life is good.